All right, friends, we're covering the Easymoc Rangeley boot once again. This is a different color, and in a way, a boot that just has a totally different vibe, even though it's the same exact pattern. But we've got the Easymoc Rangeley boot. This is from a year or two ago, probably 2 years ago. So they've slightly updated their pattern since, but not visibly so. They've just made some small changes on the inside. I was pretty pumped to see Rose Anvil covering the Easymoc line in general. I just think they're a very sincere, pragmatic brand. You know, I think they're a brand that's trying to breathe new life into the hand-sewn moccasin world, into the main hand-sewn moccasin world. And just they're bringing their own perspective. You know, they are not quaddy, they're not Rancourt, they're not Russell either. You know, they're very much their own thing, and I think if anyone's kind of pushing the envelope, it'd be them. You know, so is Yucatan, but Yucatan is even more expensive a lot more expensive than Easymoc. And Yucatan is just a little bit different. They're design heavy, they're slightly less accessible. So I think Easymoc is just in an amazing spot to really kind of lead the resurgence of hand-sewn moccasin construction over in Maine. You know, you could argue it never really went anywhere, but certainly went offshore. So to see so much happening in Maine is just a real blessing. So let's just go over the boot. You know, it's a hand-sewn moccasin boot. You've got, what do they call this? The boot, a mud guard. So it's just like a double vamp sort of thing, kind of a bumper. And it gives it a sleek, sophisticated, but still, you know, kind of rugged, overbuilt look. You've got a leather midsole on rubber, and then just a Vibram Christie wedge sole, which I am not a fan of Vibram Christie wedge sole, just personally, especially in white, but this works. You know, the proportions of this boot works, the color of this boot works. And just quick shout out, I've got my Filson workshop belt that just matches just perfectly with this boot. It's kind of ridiculous, you know, almost perfectly. They're fun to wear together. Even the hardware matches, which is strangely important to me. I love the pinking on the edge here. Really thick backstay, thick pull loop. You know, and again, just hand-sewn moccasin construction is just a star to me. I think this kind of reduces a pinch point here. Now it's a pretty soft, you know, it's a soft leather, so I don't know how tough that would be anyway, but it looks cool, and it does helps with breathability and helps with just your break-in. Something I really just love about the Rangeley boot is how much it can adapt to what you do to it, you know, to the sole you put on it, to the colors and leathers and panels that you use. And I think they just, you know, they've already messed around with, there's some with camo here. And I think that's like actually a great strong suit of this boot, and they shouldn't forget that. They're using really interesting leathers now. They're using the elk leather. You could get it in natural chrome XL, but like, man, this boot in like a kind of a chocolate medium brown pebbled leather with, say, a mossy oak camo or like a vintage duck camo panel here would just look stunning. If you want to go really crazy and kind of hunter special, you can go with a green rough out or a green, kind of a forest green suede and like an orange canvas, like a blaze orange canvas, and just call it the Hunter, you know, the Hunter Rangeley. I think that'd be so sick, you know. There's almost like, part of me is like, man, they should open up customizations, but then it'll be, you know, well over $1,000 and probably still not worth it for them. So, you know, but I think it's a great, what do you call it? Like a great template to use as a customizing tool for different brands. And already I think there's is there a Franklin and Poe version of this? There's certainly, you know, Division Road, I think, was the first place to embrace this boot and have come up with their own version of it. There's a Millworks version. I think a bunch more. They're really kind of using this boot as a collaborative template, which I think is awesome. I got these from Domestic over in Arkansas. I don't know if they're still carrying them. Having your break-in pinch point there, the cut-in, just to help is awesome. I love these boots. They're extremely comfortable. They're pretty lightweight. You know, to me, they serve as a sneaker almost. I like wearing them with a pair of like military green trousers, you know, like fatigues. And I'll wear them, you know, I try to not wear them with jeans just because like there's so many other boots I can easily wear with jeans. These they're kind of asking for me to be a little bit more creative and have a little bit more fun. So I wore them out last night with like a pair of like kind of natural canvas carpenter pants and you know, so there's something really fun and modern about them, you know, even though it's a very, very traditional boot design, a very, very, you know, it's really just a heritage moccasin hunting boot, but still with a little bit of that nod to just modern streetwear, you know, just something about it. And that's not a bad thing. You know, I've got my Russell Mocks, you know, you can get Goki boots, you can get your kind of rugged moccasin boots that are committed to the cause, and there's something fun about Easymoc kind of messing with that just a little bit, and you know in that sense bringing it all forward. They're leather, they're lined with a beautiful leather lining, really nice stitching. You know, there's a ton of sewing and stitching going on, which does beg the question: can this pattern be simplified and therefore made a little bit cheaper? You know, is there a $475 version of this boot that I don't know, looks almost just as cool but is a little bit simpler for them to make? I don't know, you know, but that would be interesting, you know, because these are creeping up towards the $600, $700, sometimes even $800 area, which just, you know, that makes them a little bit less accessible for some people. You know, they've got their chukka, which is actually really nice. I don't love a chukka, but just the proportions on that boot are perfect. I think they should do like a 6-inch, you know, or somewhere in the middle. You know, but to me it is important, especially for a brand like Easymoc that's really proving themselves now, is just to, you know, keep their prices where they're able to. Again, they're doing hand-sewn moccasin construction in Maine, in America, using beautiful materials. If I had to guess, this is a Seidel leather, but I'm not sure. Actually, it might be like a sewn stone sand suede from CF Stead. I'm not sure, or it's just from a different tannery. You know, maybe they do a run with leathers from Mexico. I don't know if that's more affordable, but certainly I do like brands having options for really nice like Horror Ring Chrome XLs, and then having a kind of a work boot leather from Seidel, you know, or something like that, where that's just a little bit cheaper and the price reflects that. You know, there's something really pleasant about a boot company being able to offer things and they're clearly. You know, a Rose Anvil cover, they're Milmoc, and just they're clearly trying to hit different price points and be more accessible. But man, like Easymoc is killing it with this boot, and so I don't want to see this boot be, you know, just like kind of almost be too exclusive, too unaccessible, that it maybe misses out on some of its popularity. Because to me, it's just a badass looking boot, and I think a lot of people can appreciate it. You know, I actually bought a pair of these for my buddy, the same exact. We got matching boots, which is awesome. And he wears them as his like kick around work boots. He's got a cabin in North Carolina, and when he's doing work around there, he's wearing these boots, and they're doing fine. You know, they could put up with it. Are they a dedicated work boot? Maybe not, but they're a great sometimes work boot, and you can still wear them out in the town, and they look great. So, you know, I think it's a really, really, really special boot. You know, and I feel really grateful. I've got 2 pairs. I have this one and the green one that I just reviewed a couple of weeks ago. You know, and again, like I want another one. I want one in green with a blaze orange waxed canvas, or, you know, canvas panel. Like imagine just a dark, beautiful, rich green suede and an orange canvas. Then I got to find a green and orange belt. We'll see. They should start selling matching belts. I don't know. There's something so fun about this pattern. I think they've got them. I know they've started messing around with the lug soles. I don't know if they just have the single piece Vibram Montagna without the heel, you know, without the high heel, higher logger heel. I think that'd be perfect for this boot. Your classic Vibram Montagna one piece outsole like you've got on the Red Wing Roughneck boots. I think that'd be perfect for a boot like this. And again, maybe they find an off-brand version, you know, that is actually cheaper. And again, getting this boot to be a little bit less, I think. I might be wrong. What do I know? I don't own a boot company, but I just want to see. I guess really what I'm trying to say is I love this pattern. I think it's such a playful pattern. It's such an exciting pattern. It's very traditional, but still feels very, very modern and very, it's just like there's a lot of people, kind of that Huckberry crowd is really who this is for. It's for people who probably live in the city or live in more urban spaces, but love the outdoors and miss the outdoors when they're not outdoors. And, we are living in a modern world where people are separated from the outdoors. So you throw in a boot like this and you feel inspired to take that hour drive and go to upstate New York or go to the Smoky Mountains or go, just go out to the desert and be in the outdoors. And, of the fact that like a boot like this can handle a weekend away where you don't really know what you're going to be doing. You're going to be hiking, you're going to be canoeing, but you'll also be going out to a nice restaurant or brewery or orchard or whatever have you. You could go pumpkin picking in these goddamn things. I mean, it's just a very, very versatile boot. And I do think, they're really, really comfortable. It's a really comfortable boot. They nailed it. Sometimes you just see a pattern of a boot and it's just they freaking nailed it. That's really it. There's something about these proportions. And again, I don't like a white wedge sole and these, but I love these. They work perfectly. They really, really, really nailed this. Blake stitch construction, and just the panels are beautiful. You got the double stitch here, the single stitch here. This is a great boot. It's a really, really special boot. And again, and yeah, back to the price point. It's like, it's really, prices are their business. I do get the feeling from Easymoc that they're trying to price their boots as fairly as they possibly can. You just kind of get a gut feeling from a boot company of like, what they're doing. Grandstone is a similar company. Red Wing is a very similar company as well. Yeah, you just get the feeling of like they're looking at their costs and they're going like, all right, here's pretty much the best we can do. And while still turning a profit and being able to keep the doors open and keep our employees working and paid well. So, it's really like kind of, sometimes I feel strange just being on the outside being like, it should be cheaper. No, that's immature. That's just like a little bit small-minded in a way. But the thing is with these boots is like, I guess they're competing with Russell, but that being said, Russell is like, a little bit more exclusive, less likely that they're going to be, not be made to order. So maybe they actually don't have that much competition. Rancourt isn't really making a boot quite like this. Quaddy is not making a boot quite like this. So you can argue that they have very, very little competition. Goki offers a beautiful boot, semi-similar to this, but not quite this. So you could argue they don't have that much competition and they're priced perfectly. I just want to see these boots stick around. I would like to pick up another pair in one of those patterns that I described, or one that I haven't described, but is just so goddamn nice that I need it. Stylistically, these are rugged, they're romantic, they're elegant. Let's just take a quick look at the left boot, see if there's anything going on that's different on this one, and there isn't. I've worn these multiple times. I've worn these to that cabin in North Carolina. I've worn them a lot, actually, but they don't, you could see the wear, like I'm already digging into the heel, but they don't look, they just kind of handle patina very, very well, very humbly. Like there's just not, I've worn these in the rain. They're kind of all they do is they'll break in just a little, and I'm sure this, these panels will darken over time. And this is not a boot that I'm wearing every day, but I do wear it for the perfect outfit or just the right day. Like yesterday, I just threw them on, and again, they're just so damn comfortable. Look at that, so nice. Having this brown match the lace, that canvas pretty much matching, and then the hardware matching. So yeah, that's my Filson Workshop belt. Super duper nice. Yeah, again, like hats off to Easymoc. I think they're absolutely killing it. I think they had a made in India line that I think they stopped. So I think all of their footwear now is made in the USA. I might be wrong. And I frankly, I don't really care. I actually like it when a company is like, hey, we're going to make a bunch of stuff in the USA, and if we have to import some stuff, we will, but we'll keep our kind of flagship items in the US. I think that's like a great spot for a company to be in, Yeah, hats off to Easymoc. I hope they keep having fun with these colors, with these patterns. I think this is a brilliant template to use to just have a blast each season, have different colors. Really, really cool. And I'm gunning for some kind of maybe like a rich warm brown rough out and the duck camo, you know, that kind of like lighter green. Search like vintage duck camo jacket, you know, from the 50s, like a 50s duck camo hunting jacket. That with like some kind of just the right shade of brown, possibly rough out, would be perfect. And then I want the green and blaze orange. I want the hunter boot. Those with the vibrant Montagna would be insane. Anyway, that's my vote. I love their natural chrome XL version as well. That's like beautiful. And then yeah, Millworks had such a nice one. I think there's a bunch of companies now running different Rangeleys. So anyway, yeah, God bless Easymoc. Big fan. I have a bunch of Easymocs. I also have their Chelsea that is made in India, and that's really, really nice. I'll cover that as well. I've not worn those yet, but they're lovely. And my other Rangeleys, I wear those all the time. They're kind of one of my favorite boots ever. All right, have I said enough? Let's see. I mean, any critiques? Yeah, I talked about price is like a little bit intimidating. You know, what are these? They're $600-700. It's like, man, you're close to Viborg territory. You're close to Yucatan territory. It's, you know, it's close to Russell. In some ways more expensive than a Goki, which is, you know, just a very traditional kind of fly fisherman, you know, East Coast outdoorsman boot. Yeah, Rosanville covered, you know, cut them in half. So check those videos out. You've probably seen them already, but those are so fun. I just think they're doing a lot right. So I really appreciate that. They're just really, really, really fun. All right. I've said enough things in the same way over and over again. God bless you. Thanks for watching.